Do you know the most common mistake that sabotages your life without you even realizing it? Talking too much. Every time you go around telling people about your failures, your drama, or how bad things are going, it's not just others who hear it. Your own mind hears it too and echoes it back. That's how you reinforce the very destiny you're trying to escape. It's harsh, but it's true. The more you talk about your pain, the deeper you embed it into your life. But listen, this video isn't about swallowing your emotions or pretending everything's fine. It's about stopping the waste of your energy in conversations that lead nowhere. The Stoics understood this perfectly. The one who learns to stay silent learns to rule over himself. Because silence isn't emptiness, it's power. And today I want you to discover how your destiny starts to shift the moment you choose what to say and what to keep to yourself. I'm going to give you 12 Stoic lessons that will help you stop narrating your wounds and start writing your future. If you apply what you're about to learn here, you'll stop living tied to your complaints and begin to move with clarity, with strength, with purpose. The question is, are you ready to stop telling yourself the same old story and dare to change your destiny? Before we continue, if what you're hearing resonates with you, hit subscribe and join our community. And if you're ready to go deeper, become an exclusive member to access content we only share with those who are truly committed to their transformation. Leave your mark in the comments too. Write, Stoic at heart. From today on, my silence builds my strength. That'll be your first act of commitment to yourself. 1. Less talk, more destiny. Be honest. How many times have you said out loud everything you were going to change, and in the end, nothing happened? Tomorrow I'll start waking up early. This time I'm really quitting social media. Now I'm finally working on my project, and the only thing you ended up piling up were excuses. Talking is free, acting costs. And that's where most people get stuck, in an ocean of words that lead nowhere. Here's the thing, your mind hears everything you say. And when you make promises you don't keep, you're not just letting others down. You're letting yourself down. Your words lose power, and along with them, so does your confidence. The result? Lots of noise, zero movement. It's like a battery that drains every time you talk too much. You end up with no energy to act, because you spent it all explaining. You know what really makes an impact? Silent transformation. That person who doesn't show off, doesn't announce anything, doesn't ask for validation, but suddenly you notice they're different. They're getting up early, making better decisions, living more calmly. They didn't give a speech, they made a change. Marcus Aurelius said it clearly. Do every act of your life as if it were your last. He didn't say promise it, he said do it. And Epictetus drove the point home with a truth that stings. It's not words that elevate a man, but actions. Because in the end, speeches are carried off by the wind, but actions are carved in stone. Let me tell you something. In the 1960s, Harper Lee published To Kill a Mockingbird, a novel that moved the world and won the Pulitzer Prize. Everyone expected more books, more interviews, more public statements. But she chose the unexpected. Silence. Decades went by without her publishing anything new. Many criticized her, others didn't get it. But her decision gave her enormous power. Her one work became untouchable, an eternal legacy. Because sometimes, what you don't say weighs more than any speech. Now I want you to apply this to your life. Do you really need to announce you're starting at the gym? No, just go. Do you need to post online that you're quitting social media? No, just close the app and do it. Do you have to explain why you're choosing to be alone now, read more, or react with calm? No. Your evolution isn't up for sale. You don't need to convince anyone. Think about this. Every time you share your plans before living them, you expose them to others' judgment. You take on their expectations, and that weakens you. So what if you keep it to yourself, like a seed that needs soil and water, not applause? The seed doesn't shout that it's going to become a tree. It grows in silence. And one day, when you least expect it, it's already giving shade. The Stoics knew that talking too much was a form of distraction. Seneca wrote, It's our actions that show whether someone has made progress, not their words. And he was right. Your words are not the measure of your change. Your discipline is. Your consistency is. Your ability to repeat an action until your life becomes something else. So here are 3 practical tips. First, stop announcing your goals. Write them down for yourself, not for the world. Second, replace every spoken promise with a small action. If you say, "I'm going to read more," open the book today and start with a single page. Third, every night go over what you did, not what you said. Ask yourself, what actions brought me closer to the life I want? Because deep down, you don't want to impress anyone. You want to transform. And that transformation doesn't start with your lips. It starts with your hands, your feet, your discipline. Less talk, more destiny. Remember, words fade, actions remain. And when you choose to act in silence, you don't need to convince anyone. Your life will speak for you, and it'll speak louder than any speech. 2, your inner voice shapes your destiny. Listen carefully. Every time you say to yourself, "I'm bad at this," "Nothing ever works out for me," or "I always mess things up," you're not joking. You're training yourself. And the worst part is, it's not just you who hears it. Others pick up on it too. Your language is like an invisible uniform. You wear it every day, and with every word, you're telling the world how it should treat you. Imagine you meet someone at a casual gathering. You've only been talking for 10 minutes, and they've already told you several times they're terrible with money, always running late, and never finish what they start. Even if they say it jokingly, your brain registers it and starts associating them with that identity. You label them without meaning to. That's exactly what happens every time you define yourself negatively. You're shaping how others, and even you, will perceive you. Your words are like paintbrushes. With every phrase you throw out about yourself, you're painting a portrait that becomes clearer over time. If you keep saying you're clumsy, you'll end up seeing yourself that way, even in areas where you're actually capable. Not because it's true, but because your mind repeats what it hears. Seneca said it with brutal clarity. What you think of yourself is far more important than what others think of you. And that truth is directly tied to your language, because your words don't just describe who you are, they start to shape who you become. The Stoics never took words lightly. To them, careless speech was as harmful as an undisciplined life. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "A man's life is what his thoughts make of it." And those thoughts? They usually wear the clothing of words. If your words are defeatist, your life becomes a reflection of that defeat. Think of it like a ship in the middle of the sea. The rudder looks small, almost insignificant compared to the ocean, but it determines the direction of the entire vessel. Your language is that rudder. Every time you say, "I can't," you steer toward the storm. Every time you say, "I'm learning," you steer toward the horizon. It's not magic, it's direction. And don't think this is just old-school philosophy. Psychology confirms it today. Kristin Neff, a leading researcher in self-compassion, has shown that people who use kinder language with themselves build greater resilience in the face of failure and have less fear of making mistakes, not because they're luckier, but because they're not sabotaging themselves with every word. Let me tell you a story. Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb, failed thousands of times before he created a working prototype. When people asked how he could handle so many failed attempts, he'd say, "I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." See how powerful that is? He never labeled himself a failure. He reframed his experience to keep moving forward. His language was the fuel for his perseverance. Now let me ask you, what kind of fuel are you using? Clean gasoline, words that drive you forward? Or poison, disguised as jokes about yourself? Let's be honest, a lot of the time you hide behind humor. "I'm the one who always messes up. The one who never picks the right person. The guy who's useless at anything practical." It might sound funny at dinner, but inside you, it's like a drop of acid falling on your self-esteem every day. The Stoics had a clear strategy. Watch their words as closely as their actions. It wasn't about speaking nicely. It was about speaking with truth and strength. Epictetus advised, Make sure your philosophy is seen more in your actions than your words. And that starts with what you say to yourself every morning. Here are 3 practical steps you can take today. Catch the phrase. Every time you catch yourself saying something negative about yourself, pause, notice it, and reframe it with something that empowers you. It's not, "I'm terrible at this," it's, "I'm learning to get better at this." Here's another trick. Eliminate the labels disguised as jokes. You're not the clumsy one, or the one who's hopeless at love, or the forever indecisive one. Every time you say it, your brain stores it as fact. And most importantly, if you've stopped labeling yourself, don't let others keep doing it. If someone reminds you of an old version of yourself, saying things like, "You've always been like that," don't stay silent. Respond out loud or in your head, "That was before. Now I'm growing." That correction is a direct message to your mind. You're not stuck in the same role anymore. In the end, remember this. Your inner voice is what guides your life. If you speak poorly about yourself, your world will adjust to match those words. But if you choose to speak to yourself with strength and respect, you'll begin writing a different destiny. And that, my friend, is the true power of a Stoic. Knowing that every word is a seed. 3. Rewrite your inner narrative. The most dangerous story isn't the one you say out loud. It's the one you whisper to yourself in silence. That voice that never shuts off and shows up when you wake up, when you fail, when you look in the mirror, or when you're facing a big decision. If that voice keeps telling you every day that you're not enough, you'll end up believing it. And the worst part is, you start acting like it's true, turning that lie into your reality. It's not a single thought that defines you, it's the repetition, that automatic phrase that pops up every time something doesn't go your way. "This always happens to me. This isn't for me. I'm a mess." No one put those words in your mouth. You did. And every time you say or think them, you reinforce an identity that doesn't serve you, but ends up running your life. Psychology is crystal clear on this. Aaron Beck, founder of cognitive therapy, discovered that most human suffering comes from negative automatic thoughts. They're not truths, they're interpretations, but since we don't question them, they end up ruling the way we live. Pause for a second and ask yourself, how do you talk to yourself when you make a mistake? If instead of calming yourself down, you punish yourself. If instead of standing by yourself, you abandon yourself, then your inner voice has become your worst enemy. And that, my friend, isn't just unfair, it's self-destructive. Sometimes the greatest act of discipline isn't saying more, it's staying quiet, silencing that thought that shows up automatically just to drag you down. Because not everything that crosses your mind deserves to become a truth. That silence creates a valuable space. It lets you observe and ask yourself whether you really deserve to treat yourself that harshly. Imagine your mind is a notebook where every day you write one sentence about yourself. If you fill it with lines like, "I'm not enough," "I'm going to fail," or "this is too hard," the only thing you'll ever read is defeat. And when you read the same story over and over, you start mistaking it for destiny. But what if you decide to start writing something different? The Stoics understood this well. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to us, but what we think about what happens to us that hurts us." And that judgment you make about yourself can become the harshest prison or the most powerful springboard. Seneca drove it home with a sharp reminder. A man suffers more often in imagination than in reality. More often than not, it's not life that's heavy. It's the voice inside you, constantly telling you that you can't. Think of someone like Frida Kahlo. Her life was marked by constant physical pain after an accident that left her severely injured. It would have been easy to repeat the story. "I can't, I'm broken, my life is over." But she chose a different narrative. Instead of defining herself by tragedy, she told herself the story of a woman capable of transforming her pain into art, into color, into a symbol of strength. Her inner voice didn't deny reality, but it gave it a new meaning. And that story is what turned her into an immortal icon. The key isn't to come up with pretty phrases to fool yourself. It's about choosing words that are fair to you. When you catch yourself thinking, "I can't handle this," replace it with, "I'm still learning how to handle this." That small shift changes how it feels and opens a new door. When your mind screams, "I always fail," answer with, "Every time I move forward a little more." It's not empty optimism, it's a conscious rewriting of your story. And if you notice you're always using humor to hide how you feel, with lines like, "I'm the clumsy one in the group," or "I never get anything right," remember, what starts as a joke ends up wearing you down inside. The world might laugh for a second, but you're the one stuck hearing that label in your head day after day. Practicing this shift doesn't happen in one day. Just like a train can't change direction all at once, your mind needs consistency to take a new route. But every time you choose to silence a harmful thought, every time you reframe it, you're slowly turning toward a new destiny. And one day, you'll look back and no longer recognize the person who used to punish themselves so harshly. Remember, the life you live is an echo of the words you repeat to yourself. If you change the story, you change the character you play. And if you change the character, you change the entire plot. You don't need to declare it to the world. Do it silently with yourself. Because it's in that intimate story, the one no one else hears, where your true destiny is rewritten. 4. Your trust isn't for everyone. Not everyone who smiles is a friend, and not every extended hand deserves to hold your story. Trust is one of the most valuable gifts you can give, but also one of the most fragile. One betrayal, one careless comment, one mistimed joke, and what took you years to open up shatters in seconds. The problem is that many confuse sincerity with oversharing. They think opening up to anyone is a sign of authenticity, when in reality, it's like leaving the door to your inner world wide open with no lock. And then, of course, come the disappointments. Words repeated in the wrong places, confidences used as weapons, vulnerable moments turned into gossip. Sound familiar? Nature teaches this with elegance. Think of the oyster. It holds the most beautiful pearl inside, but that pearl only forms when it's protected, hidden, quiet, with time and patience. No one gets access to that pearl right away, and certainly not just anyone. That's how your trust should work. Something that takes time, observation, and merit to be earned. You've probably been through it before. You're having a conversation with someone who seems close, and you decide to share a tough chapter from your life. Maybe you thought you'd finally found someone who would truly listen, but instead, all you got was some dismissive comparison. That's nothing. What I went through was way worse. Instead of empathy, you got ego, and there you were, left with that uncomfortable feeling of having handed over a piece of yourself, just to have it trampled on. The question becomes inevitable. Did you really trust that person? Or did you just need to get it off your chest with someone, anyone? So often we overshare not out of wisdom, but out of fear. Fear of carrying the weight alone. But impulsive trust usually leaves more scars than silence ever will. The Stoics understood this deeply. To them, trust wasn't naivety, it was discernment. Marcus Aurelius put it clearly in Meditations. First, be sure that he is worthy of your trust, then trust him with all your heart. That's not coldness, it's practical wisdom. Epictetus warned, "It is good to listen to everyone, but not good to speak intimately with everyone." Because not every ear is a safe place. And no, the Stoics weren't advocating for isolation. What they defended was prudence. Trust, when it's selective, strengthens relationships, but when it's given freely without filter, it becomes a constant risk. Look at the story of Nikola Tesla, a misunderstood genius who, driven by his passion to share his ideas, ended up being manipulated by those with more cunning than integrity. People like Thomas Edison and J.P. Morgan took full advantage of his blind trust, while Tesla faded into the shadows of his own talent. He leaves us a clear lesson. Brilliance without discernment in who to trust can cost you not just your projects, but your peace, and even your legacy. So, how do you act without falling into paranoia or naivete? Start by observing, not talking. Pay attention to how someone handles other people's secrets. If they thrive on rumors and gossip, what do you think they'll do with yours? Your initial silence is already a filter. You can also test the waters. Don't give away your most personal truth right away. Share something small and see what happens. If they respect it, don't make a joke of it and keep it to themselves. You've got a sign. Trust is not given in one blow. It's measured over time, just like soil is tested before you plant a valuable seed. And above all, ask yourself before you speak, am I sharing this because I truly trust this person, or because I don't want to carry it alone? If it's the latter, there are safer ways. Writing in a journal, walking in silence, even talking to yourself out loud. Not everything deserves to be handed over to someone else's judgment. Remember this, your trust is a treasure. It's not about locking it away forever. It's about offering it only to those who've proven through their actions that they'll take care of it. Just like bamboo takes years growing underground before it shows above the surface, your trust also needs invisible roots before it can bloom. Because yes, opening up can be beautiful, but opening up to the wrong person can break you. And you're not here to hand your peace to just anyone. You're here to share it with those who honor it. So protect your pearl, guard it, and when the time comes, give it only to someone who has shown they truly know how to value it. Because not everyone deserves your trust, but you deserve to be surrounded by those who treat it as something sacred. And now, if you've ever given your trust to the wrong person, write this in the comments. From today on, my trust will be a treasure, not a gift for just anyone. 5. Real strength is what you do without an audience. One of the biggest dangers of sharing everything is falling into the trap of confusing applause with progress. And when that happens, my friend, you disconnect from your own path. Because if you constantly need validation from others to keep going, you're not building discipline. You're building a sandcastle held up by the eyes of strangers. Today, everything gets put on display. People post every little step, every minor achievement, every newly started habit as if it were a trophy. The problem isn't sharing. It's depending on external reactions to stay in motion. The moment there's no applause, your engine stalls. Your consistency stops being yours and turns into a performance for the crowd. True power isn't in what you show. It's in what you do when no one's watching. That's where your character is measured, not in the photo or the post or the compliments from others, but in those silent hours when you choose to train, study, create, or endure without a single witness. Think of it like a growing tree. No one claps when it puts down roots underground, but those invisible roots are what will support its greatness tomorrow. If a tree depended on applause, it would never grow beyond the surface. One brutal example comes to mind. Emily Dickinson, one of the most influential poets in history, yet during her lifetime, she published only a handful of poems, many anonymously. She wasn't chasing recognition. She wasn't looking for approval. She wrote in silence, in the privacy of her room. Only after her death did people discover more than 1,700 poems that forever changed literature. Her work didn't need an audience at the time it was created. It grew in silence, and its power transcended generations. The Stoics understood this like few others. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, didn't write meditations to show off, but to correct himself. They were conversations with himself, a journal of internal battles. He never meant for them to be read by anyone. And yet today, those pages are a pillar of Stoic wisdom. His greatness didn't come from needing applause. It came from silent practice. Epictetus was just as clear. Don't pride yourself on your self-discipline. Let it be enough for yourself. What you do must hold value, even if no one ever knows about it. Because when you share too early, you run a huge risk. Fooling your own mind. You get a shot of satisfaction, like you've already achieved the goal. You reward yourself before even starting, and lose the hunger that was pushing you. Maybe this has happened to you. You prepared yourself for a big change, a new habit, a personal goal, a new project. You announced it with excitement, You got praise, encouragement, even admiration. And the next day, your motivation crashed. You fell asleep in that dopamine rush, as if the recognition had replaced the real effort. All you did was delay your transformation. That's why training in silence is so important. Learning to keep your plans to yourself until they've taken root. When you celebrate an achievement quietly, you reinforce it. You protect it from the fragility of outside opinion. You make it yours, not a performance. And yes, it stings sometimes not to be seen. It's uncomfortable to have no witnesses. But that's where the difference lies between someone distracted by lights and someone shaped in the dark. The first seeks approval, the second seeks evolution. And real evolution, my friend, never depends on applause. So ask yourself every time you feel the urge to share, am I doing this because I need it, or because I need them to see it? That little question can save you from a path full of noise and emptiness. Most of your most important transformations will happen without an audience. And that's not just okay. It's necessary. Because what's truly valuable doesn't always get announced. It gets built. What's essential doesn't always shine in the moment. But it's what holds your life up when no one's watching. So let go of the obsession with being seen. Celebrate in silence. Create in silence. Grow in silence. And when you finally decide to speak, let it be because you no longer need validation, but because what you've done already has deep, unshakable roots. If you can keep moving forward when no one's watching, then yes, you're on the right path. Because real strength isn't measured by the applause you receive, but by the resilience you build when the world isn't looking. 6. The hidden power of listening. Think about this for a moment. How much do you talk in a day? And how much do you actually listen? I'm not talking about just hearing words. I mean being truly present. Letting what someone else says sink in without your mind already preparing your response. We live in a world where everyone wants to speak, to give their opinion, to shout their truth. And there's less and less space for listening. The interesting thing is that listening, though it seems passive, is one of the most powerful tools you can develop. The one who listens understands what others miss. They catch nuance, sense intention, learn things that go unnoticed. But because it doesn't shine immediately, few people practice it. Seneca put it clearly. The one who knows how to speak must also know how to stay silent. And that art of silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. Because when you rush to speak, you often miss the chance to grasp something that could have changed your entire perspective. Look at real life. You probably know someone like this. You start telling them something important, and before you can even finish, they cut you off with a "yeah, I already know," or "that's nothing. What happened to me was worse." They're not listening. They're just waiting for their turn to speak. And the worst part isn't the interruption. It's that by the end of the conversation, you feel like you were talking to a wall. It wasn't a dialogue, it was a monologue in disguise. Now imagine the opposite. Someone who truly listens, who doesn't interrupt, who lets you finish, who asks questions instead of making judgments. How do you feel afterward? Heard, understood, supported. That feeling sticks with you because most people don't listen like that. The Stoics practiced this with discipline. Epictetus, who was born into slavery, learned early on the value of silence. And instead of seeing that enforced silence as a punishment, he turned it into a virtue. He taught his students to wait before responding, to not use words as a shield, but as a tool for precision. He understood that silence is where control is forged. Marcus Aurelius, despite being emperor, also cultivated this ability. He could have been the loudest voice in Rome. But Meditations isn't filled with grand speeches. It's made of questions, reflections. He listened to philosophers, soldiers, slaves, anyone, and from each he drew something. He didn't always need to dominate the conversation. He understood that the power of listening was the power of learning. Modern psychology confirms it. Carl Rogers, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, built his entire therapeutic approach around active listening. He discovered that when someone feels truly heard, without judgment, they blossom. And the same thing happens to you. When you train yourself to listen, you learn more about life than when you're always talking about yourself. Let me tell you something. In Japan, there's a practice called harage, which literally means belly art. It's not about words, it's about silent communication. It's the ability to pick up on emotions, intentions, and meaning beyond what's said. The Japanese value this art so much that in business, what isn't said often matters more than what is. That's the power of attentive listening. You can understand even what's left unsaid. Now think about yourself. How many opportunities have you missed because you spoke too soon? How many times did you interrupt a conversation that could have revealed a whole new truth? In those moments, silence isn't emptiness, it's space for understanding. Truly listening is also an act of humility. It's recognizing that you don't know everything, that someone else, without your credentials, your experience, or your age, might teach you something. Sometimes a simple sentence spoken by the person you least expect can change your course. But for that to happen, you need to be quiet long enough to let it arrive. Start training this in your everyday life. In your next conversation, resist the urge to interrupt. Pause before responding. Even if you already have your answer ready in your head, ask more, judge less, and watch how the dynamic changes. You'll notice people trust you more. They'll come to you, not because you talk a lot, but because you make them feel heard. And also remember, not everything deserves a response. Sometimes the wisest thing you can do is stay silent in the face of a provocative comment. It's not about giving in. It's about not wasting your energy on useless arguments. As Musonius Rufus, Epictetus' teacher, said, "He who stays silent in the face of nonsense shows more wisdom than the one who fights it with noise." In the end, listening is like training in the shadows. It doesn't draw attention right away, but it gives you the advantage. And when you finally speak, your words carry more weight, because they come from understanding. So the next time you feel the need to talk just to fill the space, remember, 2 ears, 1 mouth. That's no accident of nature, it's a reminder. Listening more and speaking less doesn't make you invisible. It makes you strong. Because real power doesn't belong to the loudest voice. It belongs to the one who understands best. 7. Learn to silence the noise. We live surrounded by constant noise. The external kind, non-stop notifications, meaningless chatter, interruptions that steal your focus. And the internal kind, endless comparisons, doubts that won't let up, the anxiety of wanting to explain every move so others can validate it. And at some point, that noise becomes exhausting. You mistake it for action, but it's really just distraction. You wake up with the intention to change something in your life, improve your health, leave a toxic relationship, regain your focus. And before taking a single step, you're already telling someone about it. You share it as if the process isn't real until others applaud it. And there's the trap. When you need witnesses to confirm your progress, you end up stuck in a stage where you're never the lead, only a supporting role. That kind of noise comes at a cost. Talking, justifying, explaining. It drains you like running in place. It steals your energy and leaves you with the illusion of progress when all you're really doing is going in circles. True transformation doesn't need narrators, it needs direction. Marcus Aurelius said it bluntly, "He who talks constantly about what he will do shows that he's not yet ready to do it." It's a hard truth, because behind every long explanation, there's usually insecurity. The one who's at peace doesn't need to justify every step. The one who's focused doesn't feel the urge to announce it all. Picture this scene. You're at a cafe with friends, and someone starts going on about their big plans, the business they're going to launch, the book they're going to write, the radical changes they're about to make. They speak for hours, full of excitement, as if saying it out loud made it real. Months go by, and when you see them again, nothing's changed. It was all noise. You've seen it before, and if you're honest, maybe at some point, you've been that person too. The Stoics had it clear: less talk, more life. Seneca wrote, Life is too short and turbulent to waste it on useless speeches. That warning is more relevant than ever. We live in a time where visibility is mistaken for existence. If you don't post it, it's like it didn't happen. If no one validates it, it must not be real. But that's a lie. Your process doesn't need spectators, it needs discipline. There are stories that show this with brutal clarity. Take Amedeo Modigliani, the Italian painter. He spent most of his life in poverty, unrecognized. He wasn't busy attending salons bragging about his talent or chasing validation on every corner. He painted in silence, obsessed with his art, while the noise of the world passed him by. Only after his death did his work become globally celebrated. What was ignored in life matured in silence until it became timeless. And while that might sound unfair, his story reminds us, true value doesn't need shouting. It stands on its own. You might not be a painter or a philosopher, but the lesson's the same. You don't need to turn up the volume to prove you're moving forward. In fact, the more you lower the noise, the more clarity you find. When you stop reacting to everything, stop explaining every decision, stop justifying every change, you'll discover that silence holds incredible power. It's where your roots grow. Ask yourself, how much of what you share is true communication, and how much is just a way to calm yourself down? How many times do you say something not because you trust the listener, but because silence makes you uncomfortable? That difference matters. One builds you, the other wears you down. Silencing the noise doesn't mean isolating yourself. It means choosing. Choosing what you listen to, what you respond to, and what you keep just for yourself. Choosing to surround yourself with people who uplift, not voices that drown out your process. And choosing to protect what's still in progress, like someone who shelters a seed before it becomes a tree. At first, it's hard. You're used to narrating every step, like life's some live broadcast. But once you try silence, you discover something powerful: peace. That feeling of moving forward without applause, of feeling clear without needing approval, of realizing that what matters doesn't need noise to be real. Because yes, noise is tiring. And when you learn to live with less of it, you'll find your life becomes lighter, more focused, more yours. You don't need to justify yourself. You don't need to narrate everything. You just need to keep walking. Make your silence a refuge, not a void, and remember, what truly matters doesn't seek spectators. It seeks alignment. Now I want to hear from you. What kind of noise are you going to start silencing in your life from today? Tell me in the comments, or simply write, "Today, I lower the volume of the noise and raise the volume of my discipline." 8. The strength of what you keep secret. Not everything in your life needs to escape through your lips. Some battles are only won in silence, and not because you're afraid or weak, but because you understand that what's most valuable needs to be protected. Some decisions lose their strength when exposed too early. Some processes, when interrupted by other people's opinions, start to shake before they can even take root. You've surely experienced it. You decide to leave a job that no longer fulfills you, end a relationship that's not right, or start making serious changes to your health. You feel clear, you feel certain, but you share it too soon, and then come the doubts from others. Are you sure? That's risky. If I were you, I'd think twice. And what once felt like momentum turns into hesitation. What was once certainty starts to falter. Because, though few admit it, fear is contagious. Nature offers perfect metaphors. The tiger, before it hunts, hides in the grass in absolute silence. If it roared to announce what it's about to do, it would lose its prey. The strategy is in staying quiet, waiting, and only moving when the time is right. The same thing happens to you. If you shout your plans too soon, they lose power. Let me share something real from my own life. There was a time when I knew I needed a radical change. I didn't have every detail worked out, but I felt that inner certainty, a kind of compass that doesn't get it wrong. The decision was ready, but I made the mistake of talking about it before acting. I was looking for support, maybe a bit of validation. What I got instead were borrowed fears. What if it doesn't work? What if you regret it? What if you can't handle it? I soaked in those doubts and ended up delaying something I had already decided. I learned something priceless. Some decisions aren't meant to be discussed. They're meant to be executed. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius, with the weight of the Roman Empire on his shoulders, wrote in private. His meditations weren't public speeches. They were personal notes to remind himself how to stay grounded. He didn't need applause or explanations. His strength was in acting according to his truth, not in convincing others. He put it simply, choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. In other words, strength lives inside you, not in the opinions of others. Seneca also offered a powerful reminder, what a wise man holds inside, no rumor can touch. That's the essence of strategic silence. Not hiding out of fear, but protecting what's growing, so it doesn't get contaminated by outside voices. And if you want an example beyond philosophy, think of Beyoncé. For months, she worked in secret on a full album, complete with music videos and massive production. No one knew. There were no hints, no announcements. One night, she simply released it and changed the music industry. Her silence was her strategy. She didn't let expectations, critics, or pressure interfere with her creative process. And when she spoke, she did it through results. You can apply the same in your own life. Not everything you decide needs an audience right away. Not every internal battle needs to be shared in coffee chats or online posts. Some changes need privacy to grow. Next time you're about to announce something big, pause. Ask yourself, am I sharing this because I truly trust the person listening, or because I'm uncomfortable holding it on my own a little longer? If it's the latter, stay silent. That silence becomes a wall that protects your clarity. And be careful. This isn't about living closed off. Sharing with someone who's proven to be respectful and discreet is valuable. But there's a difference between sharing and exposing. That difference is called prudence. And though many see prudence as hesitation, it's actually what allows your life to move forward without outside voices derailing your course. If you make silence your ally, there will come a point when you no longer need explanations, because your life will speak for you. Your actions, your changes, your energy will be so clear, no words will be needed. In the end, the most important battles are fought without an audience. They're won in your mind, in your discipline, in your quiet consistency. And when the time comes to reveal the results, you won't have to tell anyone. It will be obvious. 9. The strongest growth happens in silence. We live in a time where everything seems to require an audience. If you don't share it on social media, it's as if it didn't happen. If you don't post a photo of your healthy breakfast or your gym visit, it almost feels like it doesn't count. But let me tell you something. Your transformation doesn't need likes or comments. Real change doesn't demand a spotlight. It demands commitment. The danger of oversharing is that you turn your process into a performance. You talk about what you're working on, what you're about to start, and you wrap it all in nice-sounding language that sometimes replaces actual action. What was meant to be transformation gets stuck as a presentation. And that's where many get lost, in words that never become deeds. Picture this. You start waking up early, eating better, taking care of your mind. But you choose to do it in silence. No one knows. No one validates it. You just do it. Months go by and someone almost casually says, "Hey, you seem different. What's changed?" That one phrase carries more weight than 100 social media comments, because you didn't seek it. Your life spoke for itself. That's what true change means. It shows without needing to be announced. Seneca explained it beautifully. Happiness is what is born from our own soul and doesn't depend on the opinion of others. Your growth is yours. It doesn't need applause, it doesn't need an audience. It needs consistency with yourself. And if you want an example that embodies this, think of Rosa Parks. She didn't announce to the world that she was going to change the course of civil rights history. One afternoon, Tired of years of injustice, she simply chose not to give up her seat on the bus. She didn't need grand speeches or prior explanations. Her quiet act was so powerful it sparked a movement that changed a nation. There's the lesson. Not everything needs to be declared. Living it with conviction is enough. Marcus Aurelius, in his private writings, made it clear. It's not about convincing the world, but about mastering yourself. He recorded his mistakes, his progress, his doubts, not for publication, but to stay grounded in his discipline. A man is ennobled more by what he does in secret than by what he proclaims in public. That teaching is still a guiding light for anyone who confuses exposure with transformation. Silence doesn't take value away from your growth. It gives it, because it protects it. It shields it from criticism, from comparisons, from the doubts others might plant in you. Every time you overshare something that's still taking shape, you open the door for others to question it. And what was once certainty becomes fragile. Also, think about how many times you've shared something impulsively. Maybe you did it out of excitement, but deep down, you were looking for validation. It's not the same to calmly say, "I'm happy with this process," as it is to narrate every step hoping someone will confirm you're on the right path. The first comes from peace. The second, from insecurity. Start keeping to yourself what still needs time to grow. That new habit you're building. That goal that's still just a sprout. That change that's only just begun. Protect it from the noise. Not out of fear, but out of respect. Because some things grow best when they're away from outside eyes. Moving forward without narrating is a form of training. At first it's hard. You want to share. You want to be seen. But slowly you'll discover that silence has its own kind of reward. When you make progress and don't rush to tell anyone, you savor it differently. It's yours, private, solid. And when others notice it without you saying a word, it'll feel even more powerful. The energy you use to explain can be better spent taking action. And when action is carried out in silence, it becomes deeper. No one needs to know what you're doing. If it's real, sooner or later it will show. And most importantly, you don't need it to be noticed to know you're succeeding. The strongest change is the one that doesn't ask for witnesses. The one built in your mind, in your habits, in your quiet perseverance. The one that doesn't seek applause, because its greatest reward is how it transforms you from the inside out. 10. Every word can open or close your destiny. I once heard a story that was simple but powerful. A Zen master asked his students to repeat 2 different phrases each day for a month. The first, "I am weak and I can't change anything." The second, "I have the strength within me to move forward." After several weeks, the group that repeated the first phrase felt unmotivated, drained, and lacking initiative. The group that repeated the second showed more energy, more confidence, more action. What had changed? Nothing external, only the words. And that was enough to shift the direction of their lives in that moment. The same thing happens to you. What you say doesn't just disappear into the air like we often think. It stays inside. It leaves a mark on whoever hears it. And above all, on you. Every word you speak, even in a joke, is like a seed that will eventually grow. That's why the Stoics took language so seriously. For them, words weren't decoration, they were action. Seneca wrote, "The language of truth must be simple and free of ornament." What he meant was that speaking isn't just noise, it's an act of integrity. And if you're not aware of what you're saying, you end up becoming a victim of your own speech. Think about it. How many times have you caught yourself saying things like, "I'm a mess," "This always goes wrong," or "I'll probably fail"? At first it seems harmless, but constant repetition is like dripping water on stone. Over time, it wears down even the strongest surface. Your words are those drops, and if they're always negative, they'll slowly erode your confidence. Now flip it around. How many times has someone said exactly what you needed to hear in a difficult moment? Sometimes just one short, clear sentence can give you back the breath you thought you'd lost. That's the other side of language. It can be a knife or it can be medicine, and you choose what it becomes every time you speak. Marcus Aurelius in his Meditations wrote, "Let your words be just, not too many, not too few. That moderation isn't just about quantity, it's about quality. The right words illuminate, guide, and build. Empty words in excess are like smoke. They take up space, but don't nourish anything. A modern example? Maya Angelou, poet and activist. A single sentence of hers, "People will forget what you said, forget what you did, but never forget how you made them feel," has become a compass for millions. She didn't need to shout or embellish. Her words, simple and firm, left an immortal mark. That's the power of speaking with intention. So how can you use that power? First, observe. Listen to yourself. Pay attention to the phrases that come out of your mouth without you even noticing. Many of them come from old wounds or buried insecurities, and we repeat them as if they were truth. But if you pause and question them, you'll realize they no longer represent who you are. Also, look at the way you speak. There's a big difference between saying, "This is hard for me," and saying, "This is impossible," or between "I made a mistake" and "I'm useless." The words you choose shape the emotion you feel afterward, and the action you'll take next. These subtle shifts can change your entire direction. And remember something essential: not everything you think needs to be said. If what you're about to say doesn't help, doesn't bring clarity, doesn't inspire, maybe it's better left unsaid. Silence is often wiser than a rushed, careless phrase. As Musonius Rufus, Epictetus's teacher, said, "More than once, silence has saved the one who practiced it." Make your words sacred. When you speak about yourself, do it with respect, even when you're correcting yourself. When you speak about others, choose to build, not to tear down. And if you have nothing to say that uplifts, then say nothing. That silence, too, is an act of discipline, because your words are not small. They are the expression of what you think, what you feel, and what you choose. When you choose them carefully, you begin to see yourself differently, and the world begins to see you differently too. My friend, tell me, what word are you going to start using with more intention from today onward? Drop it in the comments, or if you want to make your commitment even clearer, write, "My words are seeds of strength, not of doubt." Let's keep going. 11. You don't need everyone to understand you. You've probably been there. You open up about something that hurts and they brush it off. You speak with excitement about a new project and they respond with skepticism. You try to explain an internal shift, and all you get is a sarcastic smile or a cutting remark. It's like talking to a wall, not one that simply doesn't listen, but one that throws your words back at you, loaded with judgment. Trying to get someone to understand what you carry inside, when they lack the willingness or capacity to do so, is like trying to catch the wind with your hands. You wear yourself out explaining, rephrasing, justifying, but nothing gets through. Nothing lands. Because here's an uncomfortable truth you need to accept in order to find peace. Not everyone is ready to understand you. Imagine pushing a locked door over and over again. You give it your all, pounding with words, with emotions, with effort. But the door doesn't open. And the issue isn't your strength. The key simply isn't in your hands. It's in theirs. And if they won't use it, nothing will change. That's exactly what it feels like to try to be understood by someone who doesn't share your vision, your values, or your process. It's like planting seeds in dry soil. You can exhaust yourself, but nothing will grow. Marcus Aurelius saw this clearly when he wrote, "What we hear is an opinion, not a fact. What we see is a perspective, not the truth. If everyone sees life from their own perspective, why force your truth to fit into theirs? Often, all you end up doing is shrinking yourself, toning down your voice, dimming your intensity, to match what they're willing to accept. And that, ultimately, is a form of self-betrayal." The Stoics saw this need for validation as a form of slavery. Seneca warned, "He is a slave to many who needs the approval of many." Every time you over-explain yourself, you're not speaking to grow, you're speaking to please. And that's a price too high. You lose your energy, your clarity, your inner freedom. Take Vincent van Gogh. During his life, he was misunderstood, criticized, even mocked. No one got his vision. He could have collapsed under the weight of not being validated. But instead, he kept painting. He didn't try to convince anyone. He didn't spend hours explaining himself. He created, he persisted. And though he died without recognition, his work went on to transform art forever. Van Gogh reminds us, the value of what's inside you doesn't depend on whether others understand it right now. The same applies to you. Some internal processes aren't meant to be exposed. When you explain what you're building too early, you leave it vulnerable, open to doubts, criticism, or judgment that can slow it down. Like a freshly planted seed, if you dig it up every day to show it off, you kill it. It needs silence and time underground to grow. So wisdom is in choosing. It's not about shutting yourself off or living in isolation. It's about discernment, about knowing who is truly worthy of access to your inner world. If you sense that someone lacks the sensitivity or respect to understand you, don't force it. Your silence isn't cowardice, it's protection, it's self-respect. Next time you feel excited about a project or a personal shift, ask yourself before sharing, am I sharing this because I trust them, or because I'm looking for validation? If it's the latter, keep it to yourself. Own it. Strengthen it from within. And when it's ready, it won't need explanation. It will show. And if someone judges you, remember Epictetus's words. If you want to improve, be willing to be seen as foolish or ignorant. It's hard, but it's freeing. Let them think what they want. You keep building, because your destiny isn't written in their opinions. It's written in your actions. With time, you'll discover something powerful. When you stop trying to be understood, you gain enormous freedom. You stop wasting energy justifying yourself. You stop reshaping your life to fit. You begin to walk lighter, because you know your path doesn't need an audience. Not everyone will understand what's inside you, and that's okay, because what's inside you isn't for everyone, it's for you. And when the time is right, it will show, without a word. Now listen closely, because what comes next is the ultimate test. Until now, we've talked about staying silent, about not relying on others' approval, about protecting your process. But there's one final mistake that can undo it all: confusing words with actions. Get ready, because this next lesson is not comfortable, but it just might change your life. 12. What you do in silence weighs more than what you say. You've probably felt it before. You talk to someone about a big idea, about that project that excites you, about how motivated you are, and suddenly you feel a rush, almost as if you've already achieved it. It's like tricking your own mind. Just by saying it out loud, you get a taste of the reward. But here's the trap. You haven't done anything yet. You only said it. Science backs this up. Multiple studies in psychology show that when you tell others your plans, your brain activates the same circuits it would if you had actually completed the goal. You get dopamine, endorphins, that feeling of satisfaction you should only get after following through. The problem is your brain doesn't fully distinguish between saying and doing, so you relax. You feel like you've made progress when all you've done is talk. The writer George Orwell gave a harsh but true warning. Often the greatest enemy of action is talk, because the more we talk about what we're going to do, the less we actually do. Not because talking is bad, but because it becomes a release valve, a temporary fix that steals energy from real commitment. Imagine you're climbing a mountain. You go up a few meters, feel the strain in your muscles, the sweat on your forehead. But instead of continuing, you run back down to the village to tell everyone how well you're doing. They cheer, applaud, tell you how amazing you are. And you, satisfied, return to the mountain, but with less strength. Do you really think you'll reach the summit like that? The Stoics knew this well. For them, it wasn't about what you promised. It was about what you did when no one was watching. Seneca wrote, "Speak as you teach, but live as you speak." It wasn't about grand speeches. It was about aligning your words with your actions. And if something wasn't backed by action, they'd rather stay silent. Marcus Aurelius, despite holding the power of Rome in his hands, didn't go around proclaiming, I'm going to be a good emperor. He simply tried to be one. He wrote down his failures, his progress, his reflections privately in meditations. He didn't need applause, he needed discipline. And that's what made the difference. Look at the story of Florence Nightingale, the woman who revolutionized modern nursing. She had every reason to announce her plans: a powerful family, access to elite social circles, a mission big enough to change history. But she chose to work in silence, in filthy, inhumane hospital conditions during the Crimean War. While others talked about reform, she was in the trenches, caring for soldiers, organizing teams, collecting data. And when her work finally came to light, it wasn't promises. It was undeniable results. Her story proves this truth. What's done in silence holds a power that words can never match. So now, look at yourself. How many times have you talked about what you're going to do just to soothe yourself? I'm going to start working out. This time I'll start saving. I'm working on a big project. It sounds good. It gives you a moment of relief. But what happens next? Often, nothing, because you already got your fix of satisfaction by saying it. Real change doesn't need announcements. It needs action. When you choose to stay quiet and get to work, your energy doesn't get scattered across explanations. It gets focused on building. And that focus is what gives you strength. While others get lost in opinions and comments, you move forward. While others collect premature applause, you build real achievements. Next time you have a goal, keep it quiet. Write it down for yourself. Start without telling anyone. Reinforce it with small, daily steps. And when someone finally notices, let it be because you're already reaping the results, not because you needed validation before even starting. That moment, when others see your change without you saying a word, is more powerful than any applause you could ask for. And don't confuse this with repression. Talking can help. It can clarify ideas, release tension. But if you realize you're talking more than you're doing, something's off. You're building an imaginary version of yourself that doesn't align with the real one. And that gap, it hurts. Because sooner or later, it catches up with you. The truth is simple: do more, talk less. Spend your energy training, practicing, building, not decorating a process you haven't lived yet. Because saying it might calm you for a moment, but doing it transforms you. And remember this above all: life doesn't change because you announce it. It changes because you act. Because you stand by your decisions in silence, day after day, until your reality speaks for you. My friend, if you've made it this far, it's because something inside you is already calling for change. Take the step. Turn your silence into strength. And now I want to hear from you in the comments. Leave your mark with this phrase: Stoic at heart. From today on, I stop talking about my change and start proving it. That's how I'll know who the warriors with a Stoic soul are, the ones who made it all the way to the end. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, and hit the like button so you don't miss what's coming next. And make sure to check out the playlist you'll find on the screen. It's filled with ideas, stories, and insights, designed to help you face life with more wisdom and confidence. Click, and let's keep growing together. Until the next conversation, take care and keep embracing your Stoic self.